The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV. Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is our secret.
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
The Stone Zone
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You are now entering the hottest political commentary radio show in America today, The Stone Zone. In a decisive display of strength and, legislative skill, House Republicans under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson on Thursday firmly blocked a Democrat-backed War Powers resolution aimed at undermining President Donald Trump's critical military operations against Iran. What's extraordinary, of course, is that House Democrats never tried to tie the hands of Barack Obama, the president who dropped more bombs, fired more missiles, and killed more people with drones than any president in American history. This particular bill, sponsored by New York Congressman Gregory Meeks, sought to invoke the 1973 War Powers Resolution to force an abrupt withdrawal of U.S. forces or require the president to seek explicit congressional permission to continue safeguarding America and our allies. Rather than allowing the opposition to score a procedural win through rushed political tactics, Speaker Johnson and the Republican leadership, including the Majority Leader Steve Scalise, strategically pulled the measure, buying time amid absences and internal deliberations. This move exemplified Republican strength by refusing to let partisan theater undermine active operations against a dangerous adversary, particularly at a time that President Trump is working feverishly to try to bring the war to a close through a negotiated peace. By pulling the vote, House Republicans bought critical time amid several absences that threatened to hand the opposition a short-term procedural victory. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise noted that the delay would allow absent lawmakers to return and participate once the House reconvenes after the Memorial Day recess. While understandably some members are always away, this strategic move prevented the left from exploiting temporary absences to undermine the President of the United States. These absences do not reflect any weakening of support for the President's policy. In fact, far from signaling division, they underscore the practical challenges of scheduling, while the overwhelming majority of House Republicans continue to stand firmly behind the President's strong stance against the Iranian regime. House Democrats remained largely unified behind the resolution, framing it as a necessary check on executive power, something they never did during the time that Barack Obama was president, of course, though their sudden constitutional concerns appear to be highly selective. Most have backed efforts to restrain the president, with only a handful of exceptions, such as Congressman Jared Golden, who previously dissented from the party line. Republicans stood mostly united in opposition, recognizing the resolution as a constitutionally dubious attempt to micromanage the commander-in-chief during a time of real threats from the Iranian regime. Defections were limited but notable. Of course, recently defeated Congressman Thomas Massie sided against the war efforts, joining Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, who is a Democrat in Republican clothing and one of the great rhinos of all time, and Tom Barrett, who broke ranks and voted with Democrats, as they usually do, on related measures. In the Senate, Republicans such as Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins have shown some support for similar war power efforts in the past. On May 19th, the Senate advanced a companion resolution by a narrow 50-47 vote, with only 4 Republicans joining the Democrats. America's 47th president continues to exert strong control over the Republican Party, as proven by this year's early primary results. Multiple incumbents who distanced themselves from his agenda have been defeated by Trump-backed challengers. Most notably, Senator and Dr. Bill Cassidy of Louisiana lost his re-election bid after actually finishing third in the Republican primary, scoring, by the way, at less than 25%, the all-time low level for an incumbent U.S. senator seeking re-election within the Republican Party. Also, of course, Congressman Tom Massie, who was defeated by a Trump-endorsed candidate only days ago. These outcomes serve as a very clear reminder that crossing the president carries significant political consequences. However, leadership's decision here to pause and regroup transform these challenges into an opportunity to consolidate broader support and prevent a damaging precedent during the time the president is working hard to bring this war to a conclusion. With precise military action, America has dismantled key components of Iran's nuclear program, their missile sites, and their terror network, proving once again the effectiveness of the conservative doctrine of peace through strength. Launched in response to Iranian aggression, these operations have already yielded significant results. They've damaged the regime's navy, they've disrupted its nuclear ambitions, and its exposure of its underlying frailty of their entire infrastructure. Trump made his position known on Truth Social when he said, "We're applying maximum pressure while remaining open to serious negotiations." Far from the reckless, this approach prioritizes decisive action to confront the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism before threats metastasize, rather than retreating into endless congressional interference or isolationist weakness. Critics on the left chose to ignore this broader context. Withdrawing from the war now would embolden Iranian proxies such as Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Hamas, while handing the mullahs breathing room to regroup and claim victory. The opposition's outrage over unconstitutional actions rings performative, especially given their eager tolerance for expansive executive power under Joe Biden and Barack Obama, which of course resulted in billions of dollars of losses and massive loss of life. This resolution was never truly about oversight. It was about sure political theater designed to fracture the Republican majority in the House and portray the president as reckless. By blocking the measure, House Republicans did exactly what voters expected. They honored the clear mandate delivered by electing Donald Trump to restore American strength and put America first. I want to be very clear. President Trump has repeatedly denounced the 1974 War Powers Act as unconstitutional, insisting it improperly ties the hands of the commander-in-chief in the conduct of foreign policy, and has never been faithfully followed by any previous presidents. Abandoning this mission now would waste all of our progress against a regime already crippled by a struggling economy and a military quickly struggling to try to rebuild and regroup. Moving forward, House Republicans must stay united behind the clear goals of neutralizing Iran's threats to America and our allies, securing the hostages, and placing veritable limits on their nuclear program. Rejecting this resolution halts dangerous congressional meddling in active operations. Staying the course, maintaining at maximum pressure, and negotiating from strength is the only path to real, lasting peace, not the false peace of retreat and partisan games, as we saw in the Congress. Victory demands resolve, and Republicans in this case have shown it. In another news development, former FBI Director James Comey's federal trial has been delayed until October, giving him more time to fight charges tied to his infamous 8647 Instagram post, in another disgraceful example of deep state hack evading justice within a system designed to protect them. Again, I ask this question. When I was charged, a federal judge gagged me so that I could not comment on the charges against me. In fact, I was not allowed to go on radio, television, cable, or social media to defend myself. Why is James Comey able to continue to proselytize against his prosecutors and go on outlets like MSNBC? Seems rather unfair to me, but then, well, that's the two-tier justice system. Prosecutors argue that the message amounted to a threat against President Donald Trump, the 47th president. Everybody in the law enforcement community knows what the term 86 means. It is a mob term. It means to terminate, to whack, to kill. for Comey to say that he didn't know what it meant is absurd. Comey deleted the post after backlash. Remember, he claimed he was walking down the beach and he just happened to see this shell formation spelling out 86-447. He claimed he didn't know that 86 could be interpreted as a call for violence. His attorneys are now preparing multiple constitutional motions, arguing the case should be thrown out as protected political speech. The trial had been scheduled for July, but Judge Louise Wood Flanagan pushed it out to October 21st. Comey has spent years at the center of the Russiagate probe as he lied to Congress repeatedly and helped to launder lies that framed President Trump as a Russian agent in the hopes of railroading his presidency. You may recall that FBI Director Comey and I were charged with the exact same crime, lying to Congress. There's one major difference. He was guilty, I was not. In his case, he very specifically denied under oath that he ever shared sealed or classified information with a third party and directed them to leak it to the media. Yet prosecutors found an email in which he did exactly that, sharing sealed material with Dan Richman, a law school associate of his, and directing him very specifically to leak it to the New York Times. That indictment was dismissed, not because of a flaw in the indictment, but because 3 federal judges interfered to claim that the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, was improperly appointed by the president. They're wrong about that. They will lose that on appeal. But by that time, of course, the statute of limitations will have run and Comey will not be able to be charged with that specific crime. Now, once again, James Comey is asking the legal system for every benefit of the doubt that Trump supporters like me were never granted when Biden was in office or when Obama was in office. Democrats claim the prosecution is political and it's retaliation. But there's a simple standard. No one gets to threaten the President of the United States, not a random citizen, and certainly not a former FBI director who believes that he's above the law, or one who thinks we're stupid enough to believe that he doesn't know what the term 86 means. Equal justice means equal consequences. Comey should not get special treatment just because he's a former insider protected by Washington's ruling class. The fact is he's getting special treatment in a criminal justice system that is really, truly an embarrassment. In the meantime, federal agents moved within the last 48 hours to dismantle a makeshift autonomous zone set up in an anti-ICE activist group outside the Delaney Hall ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey. Protesters had established encampments and barricades aimed at blocking vehicles from entering or leaving this federal site. Authorities responded with tear gas and other less lethal measures after activists escalated the confrontation. The protests were organized in part by groups including the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, part of a broader network of immigration activist organizations that are essentially a leftist rebranding from Antifa. By the way, you notice that the names of these groups always have the exact opposite effect of what they're really doing. So the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice has nothing whatsoever to do with justice. It has to do with protecting people who are here in the country illegally, many of whom are violent criminals. Strategy, of course, is to provoke federal agents, disrupt lawful immigration enforcement, wait for officers to respond, then rely on friendly media and Democrat officials to portray ICE as the aggressors and the bad guys, when in fact all they're doing is upholding federal law and doing their jobs. Democrats continue to claim deportation efforts are supposedly focused only on illegal immigrants with additional criminal records. But the Trump administration has made it clear that immigration enforcement applies to illegal immigrants broadly, not merely those convicted of separate crimes after entering the country. It's a fact that every illegal immigrant is, by definition, therefore, a criminal. Despite protests, theatrics, and activist pressure campaigns, deportations are increasing as funding for ICE has increased. President Trump has also announced plans to expand enforcement through the end of the year, with large processing facilities and additional trained agents. The latest polls show that 80+% of the American people favor the deportation of dangerous illegal criminals. So, there you have it. There must also be a crackdown against these groups whose behavior protects illegal immigrants and prevents them from being deported. All of these Antifa-style groups must be designated as terror groups and put out of commission permanently. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone here, right on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Don't go away, because we'll be back with more hot political news on the other side.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Well, a disturbing new case is raising fresh concerns about Chinese Communist Party influence operations inside the United States and how deep it extends within both major political parties. Thomas Pauken II, an American media professional and son of former Texas Republican Party State Chairman Tom Pauken, a supporter of Governor Ron DeSantis for president, was charged in February with acting as an unregistered agent of the Chinese Communist government, according to a newly surfaced court record. A Justice Department affidavit says that Pauken moved to China around 2010 and worked under the name Tom McGregor while calling himself a journalist for Chinese state propaganda outlets. Prosecutors allege that he prepared confidential documents for Chinese President Xi Jinping and helped connect a Chinese handler with an associate seeking a job in the Trump administration. Federal agents interviewed Pauken in January of 2025 after he arrived at Washington's Dulles International Airport from China. According to the affidavit, Pauken allegedly said his trip was partly intended to meet with the person seeking a role in the new Trump administration, and then he believed there was a strong chance that that person would provide classified information to China. That individual reportedly did not get the exact job sought, but prosecutors say the person now works for a U.S. government agency. Pauken's attorney stressed that his client is not charged with spying or mishandling classified information, but with failing to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Pauken II has been detained pending trial. This makes it clear that the CCP plays the long game. It targets media, politics, family connections, and access to power, and they're very adept at doing it. It has also corroded our very institutions, whether it is academia, whether it is business, or whether it is just the outright buying of real estate. Chinese communists have bought up prime ranch land and farmland right here in the United States. We should make it illegal. Republicans talk about it constantly, but they don't actually do it. Rooting out these Chinese communist influence will not be easy, but we must make an example of everyone who's proven to have done the bidding for the Chinese Communist Party. Far more than a slap on the wrist is necessary for all of those who've sold us out to the Red Chinese menace. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks, and we'll be right back.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. My next guest is someone who understands firsthand what it means to love a dog like a family. Now, in the 30-plus years I've been married to my wife, we have had 9 Yorkshire Terriers and 1 rescue dog who was a Wheaton Terrier, who unfortunately had a mangled leg and survived on 3 legs for a long time until he too went to that great pet graveyard in the sky. So we are dog lovers. I do not endorse products that I don't believe in, and I'm an extraordinarily strong believer firsthand in rough greens. You see, my dogs, Pee-wee 2.0 and Mimi, brother and sister, well, they kind of lost their spark. They're a little long in the tooth. These are older dogs, and I don't know, they seemed less active. They seem to have lost that zip, that energy. After using these rough green products, I have to tell you, they're like younger pups. Their coats are shinier and smoother. They're happier. They're healthier. This has been a godsend. Now, Sarah Black, my next guest, is the daughter of naturopathic doctor and Rough Greens founder, Dr. Dennis Black, and she's a proud dog mom to 2 incredible pups herself. She has a rescued Portuguese water dog who needed a forever home, and I'm told the latest addition, an irresistible half-doodle, half-Portuguese water dog who's completely stolen her heart. So she knows how I feel, and my wife and I feel, about our pups. You may have already seen Sarah's face across Facebook and social media as one of the biggest and most passionate fans of Rough Greens, because she doesn't just represent the brand, She lives it every single day. She's here today to talk about what every dog owner needs to hear. I know firsthand that everything she's saying is true because the Rough Greens folks have sent me their product, and I was shocked at how successful and happy my dogs were once we used it. So, Sarah Black, welcome back.
Hi, Roger. Thank you. It's so nice to be here today. I'm so glad to hear that Pee-wee and Mimi are doing great with Rough Greens.
It's like day and night, in all honesty. Their energy is better. Their spark is better. Look, they sleep with us. I admit it. We are dog lovers. They become like your children, as you know. And I've used many of these other products. I've gone to the pet shops and I bought them. Rough Greens is amazing because it's live food. It's live nutrition. It's not dead food because, as you and I both know, processed dog food is dead food. And I don't think it's healthy for the dogs. What you and your dad have done here is really extraordinary.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you know me, Rough Greens for me isn't just a business. It's a mission that my dad built from the heart. He spent his entire career as a naturopathic doctor, and when he turned the focus towards dogs, it made complete sense. I grew up watching him believe that the body, human or animal, has an incredible ability to heal. And when you give your dog the right nutrition, that's just, the key to having them thrive. So that's what Rough Greens is built on. And being a part of that with him is something that I'm just incredibly proud of.
For listeners who haven't heard of Rough Greens, I'm going to spell it for you, by the way, so you can find it online. If you look for it, it's RUFF Greens. It really is an extraordinary range of products. And it's made a huge difference for our dogs, and it will for your pets as well. Now, your dad talks a lot about nutrition. That's not a phase that most pet owners have ever focused on or even heard. But what does it actually mean, and why does it matter so much?
Well, live nutrition and live nutrients are still built biologically active. Enzymes that still work, probiotics that are still alive, and vitamins that haven't been cooked away. That's what the dog food is missing. It doesn't matter if it's the cheapest or the most expensive kind. It's all cooked. So think about the difference between a fresh salad and a can of vegetables. Like, you can feel the difference between those two. So both have nutritional value on paper, but one has live things in it and then the other one doesn't because it needs to be conserved for a long period of time. So essentially that's what we mean by dead nutrition. And that's why Rough Greens brings the life back to the food.
I think your dad, Dr. Dennis Black, who's a great man in my opinion, says that pet owners really need to focus on three things: joint issues, digestive issues, and skin issues. In my experience, Rough Greens has helped my dogs in all three areas. Why do these three things matter so much?
Well, those are the three main things that we see that older dog parents complain about, right? So think of this as the damage hasn't been done in one day or in 15 days, so it can be solved in 15 days. So let's start with joints, for example. Most owners don't realize that joint inflammation starts silently years before the dog actually shows any symptoms. By the time your dog struggles to get up, the damage is made, and unmaking that takes time. Owners laugh it off, and they're like, oh, my dog is fine. He can still jump on the couch, or he can still go for the ball. But then when they start seeing the symptoms long term, they're like, oh, I wish I would have done something sooner to prevent this. And that's what dog owners don't understand, that with Rough Greens, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to prevent your dog from having all these health issues in the future.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Most dog owners think that they're taking care of their dogs by spending a lot of money on what they think is good food, when in fact what they're buying is processed food and really dead food. Really isn't enough. I found when we began using the Rough Green products, within a week, instead of laying in bed in the morning, by the time I get up to make that first pot of espresso, my dogs were ready to play catch. They wanted to play ball immediately. Their spark was back. Their energy was back. That sparkle in their eye was back. And their coats improved almost immediately. Mimi, who is probably a little heavier than Pee-wee 2.0, was having a joint problem. those joint problems disappeared. The vet even mentioned it when she went in for a checkup. So I can tell people firsthand, this is not conjecture, this is not hype. Rough Greens really works. It's an extraordinary range of products.
No, absolutely. And it really works, but all I want consumers to understand is that it takes time. You need to give it at least 90 days to see the actual benefits of it. So it's like humans, you don't take a supplement for 2 weeks and expect to be cured from whatever it is that you feel. Unfortunately, our dogs can't talk to us, so they can't tell us that they're feeling better. But if you know your dog enough, you can start seeing it, like you said, right away with little things.
We certainly experienced the improvement almost immediately, and it just kept getting better and better. Now it is part of the regular routine for our dogs. I've recommended it to my son. My grandson just got a new dog. Recommended it to him. He's already begun his new dog on Rough Greens. I recommend this without reservation. These are great products. Where can people find Rough Greens? And is there a way for people out there listening to try it without a big commitment up front?
Yes. So anybody who's listening can go to roughgreens.com, and that's ruffgreens.com. They can use your promo code, which is STONE, and they can get a free Jumpstart trial bag, which is a 15-day supply. The intention of the bag is for you to try it to see if your dog eats it. And you will be getting a subscription that you can cancel anytime online with us as well.
Well, there you have it. I'm a great admirer of Dr. Dennis Black, and now we just talked to his daughter, Sarah, who's deeply involved with this company. He really is a visionary. What he's done for our pets is really extraordinary. I think he's actually probably saved us a lot of money in veterinary bills, and I have happier, healthier dogs. And that means I have a happier, healthier wife. I want to thank you for joining us today on the Stone Zone. And folks, go to Rough Greens. Once again, that website, one more time, Sarah.
That's ruffgreens.com, roughgreens.com, and use promo code STONE.
Check it out, folks. You'll be glad you did. Sarah, God bless you.
Thank you, Roger. You too.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Well, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is moving forward with a new federal plan to help Americans safely taper off antidepressants when patients and doctors decide it's appropriate. And of course, the backlash from Big Pharma was almost immediate. The initiative would provide new clinical guidance, provide better provider training, update prescribing data, and Medicare and Medicaid billing support for supplies tapering off of these drugs. Kennedy says too many Americans begin psychiatric medications without a clear understanding of the risks, the timelines, and how difficult it can be to stop. This notion should not be controversial, but of course Big Pharma has these drugs as a cash cow. HHS itself acknowledges that psychiatric drugs can play an important and sometimes essential role. No one denies that. They can sometimes have value. But Kennedy's approach has been more balanced. Medication when needed, informed consent always, and non-drug options like talk therapy, family support, and careful assessment should be given a fair chance first. Yet major psychiatric organizations and mental health advocates are already pushing back, warning against blaming America's mental health crisis on overprescription. In other words, they're worried about no longer getting the cushy payouts and bonuses that Big Pharma gives doctors for prescribing so many of these mind-bending drugs. Some of them even concede that better tapering guidances and more evidence-based care are reasonable, but still, they resist Secretary Kennedy's broader critique of over-medicalization. The real issue here is that Big Pharma is no longer operating with the same level of automatic deference inside the Health and Human Services Department and the Federal Drug Authority. These bureaucracies are no longer captured like they were in previous administrations. With RFK Jr. running the show, federal health agencies are taking their time to ask much tougher questions about long-term medications and their use, the side effects, and issues like informed consent, and whether patients have been pushed too quickly into what could be lifelong dependency. This is why the resistance is so fierce. RFK Jr. is not banning antidepressants. If you read that, that's disinformation. He is challenging a corrupted system that too often treats pills as the first answer and accountability as the last. Americans deserve transparency, choice, and health care that serves patients, not pharmaceutical profits. Meanwhile, a Trump house owner was targeted in a vicious murder. In South California's Trump house owner was died after a brutal attack outside his Escondido home in San Diego County. Kerry Sharon, who was known locally for proudly covering his home with pro-Trump and MAGA flags, passed away Sunday evening after nearly a week in critical condition. Prosecutors say that 32-year-old Thomas Caleb Butler carried out what they described as an unprovoked assault on Sharon. Butler has pleaded not guilty to charges including attempted murder, elder abuse, and battery. Deputy District Attorney Ross Garcia said that Sharon was struck in the jaw, fell to the ground, and then was hit repeatedly in the head. Butler remains jailed without bail, and prosecutors may upgrade the charges following Sharon's death. Authorities have not determined a motive, but it doesn't have to take a genius to figure out why an outspoken Trump supporter might be targeted and attacked in this way. Sharon's house had drawn complaints and vandalism over the years because of his outspoken patriotic and pro-Trump displays. His wife of 20 years says she believes the flags may have played a role in his death. Some liberal neighbors describe Butler as a troubled military veteran suffering from severe PTSD, while conservatives say he supported President Trump, was a registered Republican, and a dedicated patriot. This was a disgusting and depraved act of violence against an elderly man outside his own home. It's not a stretch to call this an act of terrorism, in my opinion. Fake news media and the Democrat Party have stoked the fires within their radicalized core of supporters for years, and now they're increasingly acting out their deranged fantasies. We saw this at the White House Correspondents' Dinner only weeks ago. There's never been a more important time to exercise our First Amendment rights, but also recognize the importance of our Second Amendment rights than this very moment. Meanwhile, this past Memorial Day weekend, a request from a gold-starred widow turned into a powerful reminder of what patriotism is all about. On Sunday, an ex-Uner called Cheryl Ann posted that she lived in Arkansas and could not make it to Arlington National Cemetery. She asked whether anyone visiting Washington, D.C. might take a fresh photo of her late husband's grave, which was located in Section 60 of Arlington's rolling hills at the Memorial Cemetery. Her husband, Staff Sergeant Alan W. Shaw, died in 2007 in the service of his country. Section 60 is among the most sacred grounds in America, serving as the final resting place for many service members who were killed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the War on Terror. The post was viewed nearly 2 million times. Among those who saw it was the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, herself a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve and an Iraq War veteran. So Tulsi Gabbard, private citizen in this instance, visited the grave, paid her respects, and posted a photo for Shaw's widow. She wrote that it was an honor to visit on the family's behalf, adding that the nation owns a debt of gratitude to those who made the ultimate sacrifice and to the loved ones they left behind. Other Americans also visited, leaving flowers, taking photos, and saying Shaw's name. The widow later said the response restored part of her faith in humanity and made her even prouder to be an American. Gabbard's heartfelt gesture showed that in our country, the fallen are not forgotten. Their families are not alone. So we honor their sacrifices. Tulsi Gabbard has done everything in her power throughout her career in public service to make sure that the troops are not put in harm's way abroad unless absolutely necessary. She'll soon be departing from her role as the Director of National Intelligence, as her husband, Abraham, has been diagnosed with a very rare and dangerous bone cancer. Gabbard will be greatly missed, as she is the rare public servant with the courage to stand up to the deep state and the military-industrial complex and tell them no when they demanded more power for themselves at the expense of the heroic troops who are put in harm's way needlessly due to the Washington, D.C. bureaucrats who view them not as human beings but as pawns for foreign policy. As I commented in the show over the weekend and yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard is among the most rare public servants that I have come across. She leaves behind an extraordinary record. First of all, she declassified all of the documents that proved that the Russian collusion claims were indeed a hoax. Even worse, she proved by the declassification of documents that this was a seditious conspiracy, that Barack Obama and his cabal of criminal cohorts knew from the very beginning that there was no Russian collusion, there was no Russian interference in our 2016 elections, and they put together a complicated narrative with John Brennan shoving the so-called Steele dossier into the president's intelligence community report on any given day in order to rationalize the entire 2.5-year Russian collusion hoax, which virtually crippled President Donald Trump in his first term. Thanks to the courage of Tulsi Gabbard, who declassified those documents, as well as declassifying the documents that prove that the fake impeachment in which they claim that Donald Trump had threatened the president of Ukraine, when in fact it was Joe Biden who withheld $1 billion in American aid from Ukraine unless they closed down the investigation into his corrupt son, Hunter Biden. So it was Tulsi Gabbard who declassified those documents as well. On top of that, of course, she fired 37 leakers, people who were continued to have security clearances under Donald Trump, many of whom were the signers of the famous letter in which multiple former and current intelligence officers signed a letter saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. No, the country owes an enormous debt of gratitude to Tulsi Gabbard, and I respect her for walking away from a powerful job in order to take care of her sick husband. We pray for his swift recovery. But those who think Tulsi Gabbard is finished are completely wrong. I've said it before on this show, and I will say it again. I predict that she will be the first woman president of the United States. Not in 2028, when I don't even think she's going to be a candidate, but she has a bright future. I'm Roger Stone. Thanks for joining us today in the Stone Zone.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?